As we work through those numbers on Snap and talk about social media, some of those social media companies need to prepare themselves. Thousands of plaintiff complaints out there, millions of pages of internal documentation, and transcripts of countless hours of depositions set to land in U.S. courtrooms that could threaten the future of the business model for some of those social media companies. That is the focus of a new documentary released on October 30th called Can't Look Away: The Case Against Social Media. It's now available on Bloomberg platforms, and it exposes the real-world consequences of harmful algorithms. I'm pleased to say that the co-directors of Can't Look Away join us here in Studio 2, Matthew O'Neill and Perry Peltz. Great to have both of you.
Thanks for having us.
I wish this was a more happier topic to talk about, but I think all of us with kids have sort of looked at social media and really sort of asked ourselves, what are we giving up here? When I watched this investigation, the main thing I was struck was just how much documentation is out there already about some of the harmful effects. Why hasn't there been any change yet?
You want to talk about the change a little bit?
Sure. I think that change is hard and long coming. And Section 230, which you've probably talked about a lot on this show, of the Federal Communications Act of 1996, essentially protects these social media companies from lawsuits. However, what you'll see in the film Can't Look Away, and interesting that you were just talking about Snap, is that one of the main arcs of this story is a lawsuit that parents bring against Snap because of harms that their children suffered linked to their use of Snap.
And that is progressing right now, because that is in the system right now. They are in discovery, and the lawyers are getting lots and lots of documentation that they hadn't had access to before. So we're expecting real change to happen in short order.
For the folks that you have, and I'm talking about the parents and some of the kids that you talked to in this piece, what is their general sense here as to their ability to, I guess win isn't the right word, but I guess get some sort of a justice or compensation for what happened? It's
a great question.
Yeah.
Right? We know that these parents are doing this because they want to make change. They don't want to have happen what happened to them to other families in this country and around the world. However, even with the victories that they're having step by step, it doesn't bring their kids back. So I think it's a real double-edged sword in terms of progress that they're able to make and what it's not able to do for them.
So, as you mentioned, I mean, the perspective that change is coming, but even still, I mean, it feels like technology, social media, it advances every single day. I mean, we were just breaking Snap earnings. They're announcing this partnership with Perplexity AI to bring that search onto their platform, and it's just another avenue in which, you know, these apps become more and more a part of those younger users' lives. So, I mean, how do you sort of outrun that if regulation can't quite keep up with it?
Well, you can't outrun it. Regulation, legislation is never going to move as fast as technology. Litigation, no matter how strong our civil justice system is never going to move as fast as technology. However, what does shift is culture. And a lot of what these parents are fighting for, whether it's trying to hold Snap accountable or any of the other social media companies accountable for harms to young people, is change in the way these platforms work, change in the way these platforms are allowed to engage with young people. And how that occurs, whether it's because there's outside enforcement from the legal system, like in Australia or the United Kingdom, or it's because kids won't use the platforms.
But is it going to be too late? I don't want to make this too personal, but you know, I've got a teenager at home, and this is something my wife and I talk about all the time. And I've seen parallels being drawn now to what eventually happened to big tobacco and maybe what happened in pharma. But that was after millions of deaths and countless other maladies from those incidents. And do we have to get to that stage before we get the real change?
Unfortunately, there are real parallels with tobacco and with the opioid industry, in that these companies know what they're doing. We see that from the internal documentation, and you see that in the film. Do we have to lose the number of lives that we did in both of those epidemics before there's real change? We're really hoping not. This seems to be on a faster trajectory, and there seems to be more outcry from parents, from teachers, from aunts and uncles to make real change. So we're hopeful.
Well, continuing, you know, those parallels to the tobacco industry, to the opioid industry as well. I mean, how do you make sure that some of the change that's being talked about is lasting? Because something that we see in social media and these apps all the time is that, what's hot today isn't necessarily going to be the app of tomorrow. Certainly Snapchat has stuck around for a while, but you could see something coming up in the pipeline that could rival a TikTok, for example. So how do you make sure that, whatever is being enacted is going to be sustainable and lasting?
Well, I think that sense of sustainable, lasting change is probably about holding these companies accountable. Again, this Section 230 that keeps them from being held to justice in the civil justice system is where these companies are protected. So without that changing, there can't be real lasting change for internet service platforms or social media companies. So there is one sort of skeleton key that could lead to anything coming down the pipeline having the ability to be held accountable, including these new artificial intelligence-driven apps.
So what do parents do in the interim? Those who have kids, and whose kids are now reaching the age where social media will be a part of their lives, whether the parents want it to be or not?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question, because what we hate to do is scare everybody and then not give them anything that they can actually do. The most important thing is there has to be limits on the use of these phones and these apps. And the best way to do that is to delay giving your child these apps, the ability to get there. So hold back on giving phones and have conversations with your kids. Oftentimes we as parents think, well, how can we have these conversations? We don't understand social media like they do, and we don't. But we need to keep talking about it. We need to keep these devices away from them for as long as we possibly can, and we need to see changes in the school.